Hey, howdy and hello, folks. Welcome back into T1A. I'm Tank, that's Cranny, and we are going to be talking about the ones.
The Ones, our annual review of who we think is going to finish number one at their position in fantasy football this coming year, 2023. Let's hit that intro and get into this shit. So, like I had said, we are rolling out today our annual Plant Our Flags. These are the guys that we are saying going to be the number one finishers at their position overall in fantasy football. Now, generally, we would be doing these my number one, Tank's number one, my number one, Tank's number one. But when we sat down and started talking about this, we realized that both of our number ones were the same damn dude.
We agreed for once.
Yeah, so we're going to take a little bit of turn at this. We're going to give you our ones, but since we both have the same, that's only 4 dudes to talk about instead of like 8 dudes. So we're going to talk about the guys that we had as like, we don't want to say dark horses, but definitely guys that we felt like could come up, surprise people, be the one. It's guys you can look at in your draft that'll be a little bit of a value on some of them not. We're just basically going to lay out guys that we think are going to be really damn close to that, but we're also staking our claim on our number ones. If you guys are not subscribing already to the videos we're putting out, make sure to hit the notification button, subscribe to us, get all the notifications for the stuff we're putting out, and then hit the thumbs up if you like the video. And then go back and check out some of our other stuff. We have more than just this one video.
Yeah.
Right? So make sure to hit the thumbs up and like on us. Now, let's get into this, and let's talk about our first number one overall positional player. We're going to start at quarterback. Tank, who is it that you and I are agreeing on as the number one overall finisher at quarterback this year?
That's our consensus came to Joey Burrow.
Joe Cool, baby.
Being our QB1 for the year. Definitely see a lot of great things that he's grown and brewed already in Cincinnati. But you talk about a slinging, big yardage, touchdown throwing machine. This guy is it, and he's well on his way to just commanding this offense that's going to be coming up this year, which I kind of forecast to see as one of the highest pass volume teams in the league. And I think Cranny kind of agrees and has some similar points, but last year he was 5th in 20-yard plays, tied for 6th in 40-yard plays, 5th in yards, 5th in attempts. He ended the year with 606 attempts. If he would have played the rest of that Buffalo game, he could have been close to where Mahomes was at the 648 mark in attempts. Not anywhere close to Brady's 733, and I don't think many people will be touching that for a while. But, you know, Burrow had 3 number one fantasy finishes in 2022 and on the right path to really just take over and lead this team and just throw the ball everywhere all over the field.
Yeah, I like that you're bringing up Brady's 700 pass attempts because I'll be honest with you, that's kind of what I see in the future. Like, we're going to project Joe Burrow as the number one guy. You know, the calf strain coming up isn't really, we talked about it a little bit. I don't think the calf strain is going to affect him that much. Maybe it affects him a little bit in how many times he's going to take off early in the year and, you know, gain 10 yards on a run. Maybe instead he's just dumping it off or throwing the ball away. And those are fantasy stats gone. But We're not going to pick and choose across that. You're mentioning the pass volume.
Right.
Last year, Cincinnati was 29th in rush attempts and 7th in pass attempts. That puts them at the upper echelon, of course, of the league. I see them going a little bit higher than that. Joe Mixon's already proving to not be efficient at running the ball. They already seem like with the amount of carries Joe got, which was just a little over 200, that they're not really committed to the running game. They're just running to keep defenses honest on him. You got to take into account that Joe Burrow had 7 games where he either was not having Jamar Chase or T. Higgins in the lineup. If both of those guys can come in and play a full slate, 17 games with Joe Burrow, with all of them fighting to get the number one seed, because that's what they're going to be out there doing again this year against Buffalo, against KC. So every game they're going to be bringing it, and every game, Joe Burrow, I feel like this is the year where it just all finally clicks. Like, it feels like each little thing has finally like geared its way into position for Cincinnati. And this is the year that Joe Burrow just goes absolutely fucking nuclear, like 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. I know that's bullish. I'm not actually saying that's what he's going to do, but I'm just saying if he did it, I wouldn't actually be that surprised. I would be like, holy shit.
Not at all.
Yeah, because it is definitely in the slate that it could happen. I know we could argue like Josh Allen, Mahomes, of course. I've actually been, and I need to correct myself because I may have said this in other videos. I thought Drew Brees was the last quarterback to be number one overall and repeat it 2 years in a row. It was actually Josh Allen just a couple of years ago. But
Yeah.
Josh Allen, I mean, he's a fucking outlier. Like, there's no saying that Josh Allen doesn't rush his ass off again this year, pull the same thing off. It's just a rarity. So with Pat Mahomes doing it already this past year, I'm not going to put him up there again this year. I'm saying he couldn't do it.
Expecting some regression there.
Yeah, and there's other guys too there. Like I know Jalen Hurts finishing number 3. You like Jalen Hurts. Do you think that he does have it in him to be the number 1 overall by the end of the year?
I think that offense and defense just works so much better, and I just don't see the same level of scoring that they needed to do last year.
Yeah, you'd have to have Jalen still manage to get 13 touchdowns rushing, plus progress a little bit more in passing yards.
Which
maybe
13
even
rushing touchdowns is ridiculous.
It is a little ridiculous, but I mean, geez, how the fuck are you going to stop it, right? 13 times a year, you're not going to end up on the 1 yard line and just say, everybody shove Jalen into the end zone?
Until it's illegal.
Ain't happening this year, so shit.
Well, and then you also have Lamar on the list coming in with a higher focused passing coordinator.
Yep.
Better receiving weapons that he's had in his career. He's been paid. He's hungry and he's ready to go. It's hard not to say Lamar doesn't get there. And same thing with Tua. Tua was on track for a phenomenal year, but
yeah,
it just didn't work out for some reason.
There's a couple of guys that stand here, but I mean, you got to plant your flag at some point, right? We can't just like we could tier these up. We do the ones. We're planting our damn flag. It's going to be Joe Burrow on this one. I fully agree with you. The guys we're talking about, like Tua, Lamar. If there's a sneaky guy that I'm thinking pulls this off, right? Like Josh Allen isn't a surprise to be the number 1 overall.
No.
Lamar right now, I don't think anybody is actually giving Lamar a bunch of credit to have the potential to be number 1, but with his legs and the fact that it wasn't like he ran a lot on design runs before. I don't think they're going to do that again. So a lot of the yards that Lamar is out there putting up that are so impressive are coming off like broken down pass plays where he just takes off. And if he's going to throw the ball more, that means he's going to have more opportunities to just gain 5-6 yards. And if he learns how to slide and just compiles fantasy stats, and if on every drive he's going out there and just being like, I'm going to put up 8 points for you, and if I throw a touchdown or rush a touchdown, it's an extra 6.
Yeah.
Lamar could be nuclear next year, depending on how well he acclimates to a new offense. I still think with Burrow, like, I mean, you're talking a guy, like I said, dude could throw 50 touchdowns.
He's in command of this offense. It's the same coach for years. He hasn't had to change anybody. Like, it's just going to be him leading the offense that they have ready. So
fully agree with you on that one. So let's let that lead us in. We'll lay that one down now. That's our quarterback staking the claim. Let's get into the running back category. And I don't think we're going to stray very far from a lot of people who are out there right now in the fantasy community on who's going to be the number 1 overall running back this year.
Not if they're not trying to just get content.
It's Christian McCaffrey. I mean, come on. Yeah, unless you're like sticking your neck out there for another guy that I really can't see, like who Eckler. I think the cliff's probably coming for Eckler pretty soon. He's already shown
the amount of efficiency that he had is just not repeatable. And to do those 2 years in a row, it's just unfathomable.
It is, but, you know, after 2 years, it's a streak. After 3 years, it's a trend. Eckler could do it again this year, but it's hard to predict that many guys like Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer, and I'm doing this backwards, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, those guys, if they stay healthy, it's tough, I think, for Eckler to repeat the numbers he's doing. I'm going to take the guy that I know is going to get the volume. The guy I know is being schemed in the offense to get catches. He's a huge red zone threat. 49ers utilize the hell out of him in the red zone. And a guy that just number 1 overall could end up the number 1 overall fantasy scoring player in the entire league. Like, he has that in him just through scoring touchdowns, his catching ability, his rushing ability. If you take what he did last year just with the Niners and you actually expand that out to 17 games, because he only played like 11 games in that first game. I think he played like a Thursday game or some shit. It was some kind of weird thing where it was like, is Christian McCaffrey actually going to play? And he ended up playing just a little bit of that game, but still put up 12 fucking fantasy points in a game where he was like a few days that he had to learn the playbook and come in and play. I think it was like a Thursday game. So he got traded on like a Tuesday, and then he played on that Thursday or some shit like that.
Yeah, I think he only had 29% snap share for that game.
Yeah, something like that. So, even those numbers skewed a little bit, his extrapolated numbers are almost 1,200 yards rushing with 9 touchdowns, 80 catches, 700 yards with 6 touchdowns. That's 350 plus fantasy points. And that's just like baseline, I feel like. That's the floor.
Which is a ridiculous amount of fantasy points.
Yeah. So anything more that you get out of Christian McCaffrey, which is like more receptions, he's a 100 reception type of guy, more rushing work, which in the 49er offense, you got to think if with that defense and that offense, if they're up in games, they're going to run the ball. And with that offensive line and then closing out games, Christian McCaffrey getting 10 carries to end a game out between the third and fourth quarter, what is he going to do on those 10 carries? Guarantee he's probably going to bust one of those. Yep. So all that added extra is a guy that has the potential to put 400 points, RB1 overall. I don't know if there's anybody else really that we could pop in there. I mean, I know you've got reasons on why you think Christian's still there too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely see last year as his warm-up to what the Niners thought they could do and what we thought that the Niners backfield would have been able to do for the last few years. But they didn't have anybody as extremely talented as what they got in CMC now. Yeah. They are going to see so many focused targets for CMC in valuable touch areas. You already talked about the red zone, about third downs. Like those are plays where those have a higher rate of breaking open because they're trying to contain so much.
Right.
And once he got traded last year, it was week 7. He finished the season with 5 games of 20 plus points. And one of those games, which is his first game after, the initial 29% play or snap share game, he finished with almost 40 points in fantasy.
It's a beast.
He had 10 touchdowns over the total of the last 10 games. He only had 3 before he moved to San Francisco. So, except for that first game, CMC had 14 plus touches a week and averaged 6 passing targets a game. So those are phenomenal numbers. If you look at any receiving back and the amount of targets they get, they're lucky if they can average 6.
Yeah, and this guy's that's like 6 schemed passes.
This is his first couple weeks with with the new team.
Yeah, those are schemed plays. Like, we're going to get the ball in Christian's hand because he's going to end up on a linebacker. That's Kyle Shanahan's offense, utilizing the talents of his players. It's why Kyle Juszczyk ends up being an all-pro every year, because he gets schemed into things that fit for him and utilizes athleticism.
And weaknesses on the defense.
Yeah, and you're talking about Christian McCaffrey, one of the most athletic players in the NFL, is now just a toy for Kyle Shanahan. And the mad genius is just sitting in his lab, putting together plays to get the ball in the hands of Christian McCaffrey in space. And it's just disgusting. I don't know. It's hard to really put him anywhere else but number 1.
What's crazy is he's finally in an offense where he's not the only focus of the offense, which makes him even more dangerous.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to cover Christian one-on-one.
Yeah.
However, we do, even though it's hard to put somebody else up there, we search around a little bit for a dark horse. And there are guys where, like, Barkley, but you're paying the premium on Barkley, right?
Well, and at the point we were starting to talk about this too, it was like the holdout and what's going on really in New York. Like they have 15 receivers on roster right now.
Yeah, but Barkley actually signing that deal makes me feel a little bit more comfortable about Barkley. But you still are paying.
I agree.
Right? If there's a guy
about when we started talking about this.
Yeah. If there's a guy though that we're looking at that we're seeing like a little bit later in drafts.
Yeah.
And here's a guy right now that we're seeing going in Superflex startups that's going like
late second,
early third, somewhere in that range, that has an opportunity to be the number 1 overall running back, overtake Christian McCaffrey, do better than Barkley. And there's a lot of reasons why we think that he could pull this off.
I totally think it's Nick Chubb.
It's Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb has an opportunity this year with no Kareem Hunt, no real extra competition in the backfield with him. Jerome Ford. I don't even know anybody else besides Jerome Ford that's in that backfield. That's how much it doesn't fucking matter, right?
It doesn't.
Deshaun Watson coming back in 6 games, like he showed rust. But he's already showing in preseason this year that having the full year in football, probably being in the film room, in the weight room, getting like acclimated to his wide receivers. He's already showing right now in camp
to being able to throw to them as well.
Exactly, showing better in camp, which is going to make the offense better. But the big thing here is volume. And Nick Chubb now has nothing to share with anybody. He's going to get all the volume. And if this offense does anything of progress, Nick Chubb is just going to see more opportunity and more opportunity. And he has the capability to end up being a guy who runs for 1,600 yards. And with all the passing work basically going to him, he could catch 40 balls for 400, 500 yards. And then the touchdowns are up in the air. The touchdowns is what I really think, because Nick Chubb is such a big play guy. The touchdowns is where, how many can you get? And if he ends up getting in like the 20 to 25 range receiving and rushing, the dude might push for number 1 overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely losing Hunt is a big factor to, the extra few pass attempts, the extra few rushing attempts, being in on every third down, every goal line, because they're not going to trust it to a second-year, third-year guy like Ford. No, they're going to make sure that the playmaker is in there to make those plays, and he's going to get all of those touches. He's going to be more effective in the pass game, more involved in the pass game. I mean, last year he finished RB6, and he had to share it. He had Jacoby Brissett first part of the year, which they were flowing good. Once Deshaun got there, I mean, there was some rust, like you were saying. It was definitely not flowing and functioning in that offense, which, 3 and outs, shortened drives, which don't give you as many attempts. So during those first 3 weeks, he did not hit above 10 points in a PPR league at all, but still finished with 16.6 points per game on the year. The guy is an absolute beast, and this is where that offense is going to crescendo to a point where he has a shot to rush for, what did he have last year, for like 1,400 yards rushing, something like that?
1538 last year. Or wait, no, 1525. 1525 last year.
And he was sharing some of the field. They're going to give him even more touches, and the drives are going to be longer sustained. It's just going to keep adding up, and he could easily hit, like you were saying, 1,600 plus yards and still have 400 yards plus receptions, 40 plus receiving targets. Like, he's just got a shot to really dominate and be a number 1.
Yeah, I feel like this is a year. He had 300 carries last year, 302, I think, to be exact. Yeah, 302 carries last year. I mean, he has a year this year and the potential to have 50 more carries. So let's just say even on 25 carries, he's getting an extra 100 yards. That's 200 extra more yards. That's pushing him to the 1,800 yard mark.
Yeah.
He's already shown that he can score more than 12 touchdowns in a year, which is what he did last year. Yeah, he's had a 12 touchdown year before, so he can score 12 touchdowns in a year. And then, like we're saying, extra receiving work. That's what always the number 1 overall back generally has to have, that receiving work. Unless it's a crazy ass year like the year JT did it, when
a ton of guys
when a ton of guys got hurt. But even then, like, Derrick Henry, they're rushing for fucking 2,000 yards, pushing damn near 2,000. It's like, that's probably going to get you there, but I don't think Chubb's going to push 2,000 in the offense. Like, I don't think there's enough to go.
Not just rushing, but overall yardage. Yeah.
Oh yeah, overall, but I don't think. Yeah, overall for sure. I don't think just in rushing he gets 2,000, but overall, hell yes, a 1,600 yard season with 400 yards receiving. 2,000 total with, like I said, I think the touchdowns where it's going to come out. If Deshaun's rusty and he's playing like shit, he's not that great in the red zone still. Like, he just lost that capability in the NFL, which that's a deteriorating factor for a quarterback. And they get down in the end zone and the head coach is like, fuck all that. We're just going to turn around and give the ball to Chubb. And I don't give a shit if we have to give it to him 7 times to get in the end zone. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
If that happens and he has a spike touchdown year, look out, because you got to tack on everything else he's going to do for this offense being the lone running back there.
So we've got some quarterbacks out of the way. We've got some running backs out of the way. Now it gets over to the fun stuff. Everybody's PPR, half PPR champion for the next year. Who's it going to be?
I'm going to plant my flag on Jamar Chase. And I know I'll catch a little bit of flack on that because of Justin Jefferson, but that's okay. We'll talk there. We'll get there. Don't worry about it. Calm down a little bit, okay?
Calm down.
Just calm down. Simmer down now. So, Jamar Chase. The reason I'm putting Jamar Chase here is the dude misses a month in the middle of the season with a hip fracture, comes back even before the damn thing is even healed, and he's ready to go because he's going to help his team make a run for the Super Bowl. Still plays on that bum-ass thing and ends up wide receiver 12 overall. If Jamar Chase puts a full season together with a healthy, prayers up for Joe, hope that calf strain works out, with a healthy Joe, even a healthy T. Higgins. Like, I want T. Higgins healthy on this team because T. Higgins just helps coverage for Jamar Chase. If all those guys stay healthy, it is nuclear for Jamar Chase. Here's the only reason and I'll lead into this, and you can talk a little bit more about Jamar. Here's the only reason why I don't have Justin Jefferson up there right now, and it's literally the connection between Kirk Cousins and T.J. Hawkinson and the addition of Jordan Addison, K.J. Osborne, which is just look, he's not a better wide receiver than Adam Thielen. Like Adam Thielen is a route running genius, but KJ Osborne is more athletic, and I think plays to the team of where they want to go with the offense. Plays better in the offense as a field stretcher, a safety pushback guy. That's going to help out Hawkinson, Addison. I just think there's going to be a lot more balls to go around, and so I think it's like if there's a guy who has a limitation and is pushing as a number one guy, and we're picking it, hairs here, but
you got to when you're looking at the number ones.
Yeah, so I'm just picking a little piece here. I feel like Justin Jefferson maybe sees a little bit of a target dip this year. Maybe that team is a little bit more efficient by passing the ball around a little bit more rather than just focusing on just Justin Jefferson. To where I think the Bengals offense is very target centric. It's Jamar Chase, it's T. Higgins, and then everybody the fuck else. So that's the only reason why I've got him up there.
Yeah.
But why did you put Jamar Chase as number one?
So the injury was the first thing that I wanted to talk about. A hairline fracture in his hip, and he plays through it. Comes into the next game, week 6, still has this hairline fracture. Everybody's like, oh, is he going to sit? Is he going to do something? Yeah, he's going to go out and get 7 receptions for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. 60-yard touchdown is what he caught after he injured himself.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Then comes out week 7, gets Atlanta, and ends up re-injuring himself. Therefore, takes the next 4 weeks off after that. But that's after he already caught 8 receptions, 130 yards, and 2 more touchdowns.
Yeah.
So playing through some injuries, he scores, just a 34 and 35-point week for your fantasy managers. Like,
dude stays healthy. If the dude stays healthy.
I read through some articles. He was interviewed, and he was humbled by the injury because it took football away from him. He couldn't even be near the facility. He couldn't be with his teammates. He couldn't do anything. And that made him even hungry to come out there. And we saw that coming back from his injury, playing through the last part of the season, through the playoffs, and the guy was just dominant, still injured. Like the hairline fracture just didn't go away. It was still in his hip. He still had issues. But he said every time that the game fired up, he just had the adrenaline going, and it would carry him through the pain. This is the guy that's going to be hungry to go and get the number one. He said that in one of the interviews is, I want to be the number one wide receiver. This is going to happen because he is in sync, and he's played with Joe Burrow so much. Like, these guys are 4 years total?
Yeah, 4 years total playing games together, though, So
playing together, yeah. And that's including now off seasons where they're professionals. So the top target for red zone is Jamar Chase in Cincinnati. And that was proven last year because Jamar Chase had 12 touchdowns in 9 games last year, and Justin Jefferson had 8 in all 18 games. That's where I think kind of what you were talking about earlier already. Justin Jefferson getting more competition, not a bad thing. It's going to make him a lot more efficient, give him some lot more open routes, but it is going to take some targets away because Addison can get open. Like you're saying, KJ Osborne, he had a great tail end of the season last year and could play some deep balls for them. You got Hawk there. Hawk is a great red zone target, and you already saw some of the chemistry with them flowing together between Kirk Cousins and Hawkinson. So
yeah, late last year, those guys really started hooking up together.
Yep. So the only other thing that Chase got for any distraction from what would be his targets is maybe a better tight end, but that's not going to affect anything that has to do with a QB and his top trustworthy TD game-breaking primetime target.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that Hayden Hurst has actually done more in his NFL career than Irv Smith has done, and that's who they brought in to replace Hayden Hurst.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that before. You can go all the way back to Uzama before Hurst was there, and it's like they're going to be a low-end tight end one in Cincinnati because you're going to see that. They pass the ball that many times. You're going to see 60 targets, catch 40 balls, 400 yards, and sneak into 5 touchdowns, and that's going to make you tight end, 11 to 15. People are going to worry about you, when they need to add a tight end for a week. But it's not something that's going to affect Jamar Chase or even T. Higgins' numbers. Like, that's been proven year in, year out. The big coin flip with Chase is stay healthy. If you don't miss games in the 2 years you've been in the fucking league, if you do not miss games, you're a perennial top 5 wide receiver, and we're just planting it. We're saying this year he stays healthy, this year he blows it up. I agree, like, Jefferson is definitely the guy that's right in behind him, but there's another guy we could talk about real quick, too, is Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Tyreek's calling out for 2,000 yards this year, even in an offense that had Jalen Waddle and, a carousel a little bit there while Tua was getting better at quarterback. He still commanded a high target share in that offense, and Mike McDaniel is going to draw up plays to get Tyreek the ball because he is so fucking dynamic that a guy like him coming out saying, I'm going to put up 2,000 yards this year, and the cocky attitude that team seems to kind of carry with it, even with a nerdy goofball at head coach, I wouldn't put it past him, and that kind of freaks me out a little bit. I wanted to put Tyreek up in here, but it's like, man, you got Waddle there, and how quickly could the tides turn that Waddle gets that target share this year just because it's how the games go.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Defense.
Well, and you start doubling Tyreek more, and things happen.
Yeah. So that should lead us in then to our top tight end, and it's kind of funny. Like, we're probably a little off consensus on Burrow. Everybody would agree with that. I believe we're probably dead on consensus with Christian McCaffrey. We're probably in the majority there. I don't think we're too far off with Jamar Chase. Like, a couple people probably have Jamar Chase. Probably not that far off, right? Probably in the minority, though, I would say. Now we're going to go ahead and step in. We got another minority one to go here.
Yeah, for sure.
We both agreed on this. It was after a little bit of conversation, though, and it kind of tied into us talking about Pat not being the number one again because, repeating stuff and all that kind of shit. And so that's a pretty wide open lead. And we didn't put Travis Kelce as our number one tight end. Tony, who did we pick? Who did we pick?
We picked the man that's done it before, Mark Andrews.
Mandrews, the only dude to unseat Kelce in like the last 30 years is tight end number one in fantasy football.
Right. So we talked a little bit already about Lamar passing a centric focused offense. It's been already proven that no matter what wide receiver, it's not a target detractor for Mark Andrews. So similar as it's hard to pass on like somebody's number one top trusted target, that's who Mark Andrews is for Lamar. He knows where he's going and what he's doing. A play breaks down, he knows where to go. And this isn't going to change anything coming into this year with Monken at offensive coordinator.
Absolutely.
I would not be shocked if Andrews comes out and has the most red zone targets for the year. Last year, he only had 14 to Kelce's 28, but that wasn't a full year with Lamar. That was a partial year with other quarterbacks. And like the last 5 weeks of the year were crap, except for the one game that Tyler Huntley finally remembered, oh yeah, Andrews is there. And that was week 17. And then the other thing that held back Andrews a little bit last year is week 7 through 11, he was dealing with a knee injury and a shoulder injury.
Yeah, you bringing up Tyler Huntley stepping in, a lot of what Mandrews had going for him was that Tyler Huntley was the quarterback. And the way that offense is designed, it puts the tight end in like narrow passageways to get the ball to him, but he's wide the fuck open. The quarterback just has to have the confidence to throw that pass. Huntley did not have the confidence to throw that pass. He had the confidence to throw the one-on-ones that offense creates to the outside guys and the slot guys. That's why a lot of the wide receivers saw more targets than Mandrews did, not because Mandrews fell off or anything like that, or he wasn't running his routes right. It's just you could see it in the tape that Huntley did not want to throw that pass because he didn't have the confidence himself to get over the linebacker under the safety. Lamar Jackson, don't give a fuck. He zips that shit in there and playing. Mark Andrews is in the seams and catching those out routes because they both fucking are on the same page. If you look at the beginning of the year from Andrews, he had 2 games over 30 points, both at 32, and 1 game at 29 points. And then Lamar gets hurt and he falls off a cliff because Huntley can't throw that seam pass anymore. Andrews is going to see targets, especially because it's just another year where Lamar Jackson really has nobody coming into the fold, but he has a rapport with. Yes, he showed a really good rapport with Shaw Bateman when they were both playing together at the beginning of the year. Bateman hasn't shown to be all that great at staying healthy on the field, and therefore his like continuous production. Do I think if
Andrews still produced in those games?
Yeah, and I think if Bateman's healthy and on the field, yes, maybe he takes a little bit, but I think it more just helps Andrews out, keeps safeties off of him, gives somebody else for the defense to have to pay attention to. But we've also got OBJ. We got Zay Flowers coming in here, and a lot of people are going to be like, well, there's a hell of a target share there to have to worry about. your best player is going to end up getting the ball. Guys get targets because guys get fucking open. Andrews gets targeted by Jackson.
And trust by the quarterback.
Exactly. And so I see Mark Andrews just like Travis Kelce with Patrick Mahomes. They both have a great connection together.
Yeah.
I think the offensive upgrade, the change in offensive coordinator, the money that Lamar got paid, he's a happy guy now. He's back in there. He's ready to kick ass. I think this is the year that Mark Andrews, again, comes in, overtakes Travis Kelce as the number one, sign it in, lock it up, let's go. I don't really want to bet on it, though. I know. Somebody was like, put 50 on. I'm like, again, I don't want to.
Well, you know, it's Kelce, and we just see like what else is on that offense. That's also what we were talking about earlier. There's regression that's gonna happen in that offense when you change offensive coordinators. Yes, it's still Andy Reid's system. Yes, it's still going to be going through Mahomes, but there's a change, and sometimes that those elite players have a slight hitch. Doesn't mean that they're bad, that they're going to have a shit year. It's just that they're going to have a slight regression in what they were producing until they get in the groove, which is just enough to really leave that open way for Andrews to take over Kelce, and people are just going to have to deal with it because it's happened before and it's going to happen again.
Yeah, it's still tough not to put Kelce up there.
Right.
And it's another offseason where Kansas City does not add any main threats. They could have brought in DeAndre Hopkins like he was out there in the open market. That would have been fucking awesome. If they could have pulled off
that would have changed this conversation a lot.
Yeah, they could have pulled off a couple of trades where, you know, some bigger name, good wide receivers were out there. They could have added to it. Instead, they just, you know, they kind of stood pat. Brought in Rashee Rice, guys like that. You know, didn't really bring in a lot of competition for wide receiver. And so it's like, this is still Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes on offense, and then everything else is just a tool to keep the offense moving. But when you really boil it down, it's still going to be Mahomes and Kelce. It's hard to bet against those guys. But Andrew's done it once. I think he can do it again. Yeah. The new offense coming in for Lamar Jackson, I think, is going to be the big change. And even if you see this offense go to a 60-40 split run pass, sorry, I probably said that the wrong way, pass run at 60-40.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a major uptick on Lamar. You see a guy that's actually going to get his 4,000-yard passing season finally. He's still going to have the rushing going on for him. But a lot of that, like, it's because he moves around in the pocket and break down plays between him and Andrews because of the connection they have. If there's just going to be more of those, fucking sign me the shit up, because those are usually big plays for the tight end and the quarterback.
Yep. And he usually is able to break them off and get, you know, like you said, that open spot where he can catch it.
Fucking break them off something.
Break them. Yeah. All right. We got through them. That's our ones for 2023.
That's our ones, bud. Yeah, we just finished up the fourth best ball draft. We got that league all set up. That looks like it's going to draft sometime in the middle of August, I think, is where it looked like we were headed.
I think so.
We don't know, though, yet. Still not set in stone. So we'll have that coming up, too. Tank's got some things lined up. I'll keep trying to get on here and do something. I know I keep saying that, but maybe one of these days I'll actually find time and I'll do it. But who knows?
Who knows?
Until then, I'm the mystery man.
Peace out.